Hey class, in this video I'm going to talk about using a new IDE. So I've been debugging and trying to figure out what's happening with the P5 editor for the past couple of days, and I haven't really been able to figure out what the issue is. They seem to be aware of some of the problems, but I don't know when they're going to be resolved. So I played around with some different similar products. There's a ton of them out there, and they really kind of all do more or less the same thing. Some of them have different features. The thing I do like about the P5 editor is just how simple it is. So there's not all these different buttons and different things in the interface that we have to talk about. But I found one that I think is pretty straightforward and should be useful to kind of complete our lesson in HTML and CSS, and probably to use in our last unit on programming. So anyway, I'm just going to go over in this video moving our project over from P5 to Code Sandbox. Some of you are probably, maybe your P5 project looks fine and the styles are working, and you can stay with P5 if you want to do that. But if you're having any errors, or if you want to just move over to stay on track with what I'm going to be using, I recommend checking out Code Sandbox. So I have my project open, the CSS basics, and I'm just going to go over a pretty quick way to move this over to a Code Sandbox project. So in the P5 editor, if you're logged in and you have your project open, you can pretty easily actually download all of the files. So instead of moving each file one by one or copying and pasting your files into a new project, we can just download the whole thing and then upload it into Code Sandbox. So that's what I'm going to go over in this video. If you want to copy and paste, that's fine. And if you need help, let me know. We can go over it in office hours. But anyway, I'm going to start in P5. I'm just going to download my project, and then we're going to move over to Code Sandbox. I'll talk about a couple things there, and then we'll just upload our project there. So I'm going to go to File in P5. Note that this is in the P5 interface. This is not in the Chrome menu. So I'm going to P5 here, and I'm going to download. You can also do this through the browser, but it's not going to work correctly. So don't do that. Make sure that you're using the file menu that's in the P5 editor window. Once you do that, if I open up my Finder and go to my Downloads folder, you'll see there's the project folder here. And if I open this up, you're going to see all of my files there. So the easiest way to do this is to, I'm going to drag these files. You can do it as a group, or you can do it one by one into the Code Sandbox. You might drag the folder. That means it's going to be in another folder, so I don't recommend doing that. Again, if you make mistakes like that, it's fine. We can fix them pretty easily. Just send me an email, or we can meet in office hours. And just to be careful, so you should see, like you see I have index.html. I have this extra animator.html page that I was testing, but there's my animator and designer.html pages, and then you can see my images folder. So everything that I had on the P5 project is here. So that's if you download from File and then Download. If you happen to go to Chrome and go to Save Page As, this is not what you should do, but I'm just demonstrating this just so you can see what this is going to look like, because it's not going to be as easy to use. If you download the whole web page, you're going to get this like weird HTML page like this, and then inside here you're going to see there's all this stuff because the P5 is doing a bunch of stuff in the background. So don't do that. That's just what it'll look like in case you happen to do that. So we've got our project files here, and we're just going to add them into Code Sandbox. So I'm going to go back to the browser for a minute, and I've got Code Sandbox open over here. This is just codesandbox.io. I'll put a link to this in Blackboard and in the video. I'm logged in right now, but if you go to Code Sandbox, you're going to see, this is the homepage for the website. You're going to click Try for Free. There's you can set up a free account. If it asks you for a credit card, you've gone down the wrong path. So, back up. but you're just gonna create, and we're gonna use something called a sandbox. So another thing, as I mentioned, the P5 editor, part of why it's nice is because it's super, super simple. Everything is just one type of project. In Code Sandbox, there's different types of projects, and we want to use the Sandbox project. That's the sort of like stripped down, simple version. You can click on that, and then you can see one of the defaults is HTML and CSS. But I want to do this on my own account, so I'm going to get out of here and go back to my browser page where I'm logged in. Make sure you create an account so you can save your projects and share them like we were doing in P5. Okay, so once I'm logged in and I'm at my workspace, you can see there's my username there. There's different options for login. You can use Google. I used my GitHub account. You can use email, whatever. Again, we want to make a sandbox. So don't use a repository, don't use a dev box, just use a sandbox. So I'm going to click on sandbox. And again, this is going to bring up my templates. For now, we're keeping it simple. I'm just going to do HTML and CSS. And it's going to ask to give a name. So I'm going to call this CSS Basics. And I'll put Spring 2024 there. And then there's a couple settings we can put here. You can put it in your drafts folder or your root folder. I'm going to put it on the root folder so that it's publicly accessible. And that's pretty much it. I'm just going to click Create Sandbox. Oh, you can also change the visibility. So we're going to change this to public, so that will let me view your project. So I'm going to click Create Sandbox here. And I'm going to, before I actually do any editing, I'm going to go back to my homepage and just show that once you've created a project, you're going to see it here on your homepage. So it's really easy to find. There's a bunch of other things that you can do here. So, just make sure to look out for that. So when we come back to edit this later, we're just going to go to the homepage and then click on our project here. So you can see the interface is quite similar to the P5 interface, but there are some differences. You can see that there's a few extra kind of buttons up here. There's a few extra things down here, but we really don't need to change the interface at all. So I'm not going to change any of the defaults on this interface. I'm just going to leave it exactly the way it is. And I'll just go over some of the basics of how we can edit our website. So as I mentioned, I am going to upload all of my files here. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and delete all of these extra files that they create as a template. You could use those as a template and just edit them, but I'm just going to delete these and upload my own files. You can also upload and it'll give you the option to replace. So if you don't delete these, you can still upload your files and just replace the main files. So then if you want to, there are some settings right here. You can go to settings. Again, I'm going to leave them all defaults. So if you want to change like the color scheme, other things like that, this is where you would do it. But I'm going to leave mine as is. It's generating this package.json file. Just ignore that. You don't need to worry about that. Okay, so I've got sort of an empty space, and now I'm going to upload my files. So I'm just going to go over to the Finder. And again, I don't want to upload this main folder because that's going to create a folder inside my project, which isn't what I want to do. What I want is to have each one of my project files up there. So you can hold Shift and select all of them. You can drag them one at a time. Either way, I'm just going to drag these guys over here, and it's just going to add them there. So that was nice and simple. You can see there's the index.html. I don't see it here. I can hit this refresh button. Oh boy, now I'm starting to have issues everywhere. Let's reload this and see if it is there. Okay, somehow my index.html page didn't make it. So let's try that one more time. I'm just going to do my index.html page. There we go. Okay. And so you should see basically the same folder structure here. So I have the images with my self-portrait that I added up here. I have my pages with the animator.html and the designer.html, and I have my index.html. Notice that in this Code Sandbox, you can open multiple tabs like you can in the browser. So it's a little more advanced. There's more features than the P5 editor. Again, this makes it easier to do more complex things, but it also makes it a little bit trickier to use if you haven't used it before. So let's take a look at our index.html. So now instead of the big play button that you have in P5, there's this preview window over here. And if you click refresh, you should see the updates to your website. And there we go. We can see the website. And now what didn't work on Monday, we should see work here. Although when I click on Animator, oh, I changed this while I was editing, while I was debugging. So let's add this URL back, and then I'm going to refresh this page. Notice that it did some auto formatting for me. That's probably something that's set in settings somewhere. I'm not going to worry about that right now because, having the editor format my code is nice. Okay, so now finally I can see that the style page applies to my my interior page that I linked to, this animator.html. And remember, that's because I put the .. / before the style.css. I am actually going to see if I can increase the font size on my editor because I do want to make it easy to see. So I'm going to go to editor and go to user preferences. And there we go. So the editor font size, you can tell I haven't used this IDE a ton, but there's some basics that we can expect. So let's try 24 pixels. And let's see how that looks. Okay, that is bigger, but now we're overlapping the side of the page. Let's see if I can set that. Okay, so there's another setting for word wrap. I'm going to turn that on. And there we go. That looks a little bit better. Although now it looks there's not enough line height. Okay, so I probably should have played around with this a little bit more before I started editing things. So I'm just going to turn the word wrap off, and I'm going to turn the editor size down to 20. Okay, so I'll just have to scroll across to see the code, but that's okay. I can probably resize this, so I'll make this a little bit smaller. Okay, so it's a work in progress. I can also make this a little smaller. I don't know if I can collapse that. Oh, I can make my preview go away, which is nice. Okay. So again, lots more features, but that's okay. So if we click start over, we get back to our main page. And if we go to designer, okay, so now we can see, that our CSS is applying to all of our pages, which is what we want. So in our animator.html, we use the .. / to grab the main style sheet here, and the same thing on designer.html. Okay, so this is a little bit better. It has all the same features. I actually kind of like the styling of this a little bit more. I like that purple color, that's nice. So yeah, that I'll be using this in the future videos, a couple more features to look at before we go. So in P5, there's a file and duplicate button you can use to copy my templates. Here, what you would use is the fork button. So if you're signed in on your project and you open this link to my project, which I'll link in the video, and I'll put a link on Blackboard as well. On there, you're going to see this fork button, and you can click fork, and it'll make a copy of the project. If I do it, I'm going to make a copy of my own project. So I don't really want to do that, but that's what you can do to copy this, and then you can edit on your own. One last thing that we can do is that this URL here is actually a real URL. So the nice thing about this actually that's a little bit better than P5 in my opinion is I can share the live version of this page and it'll load and it's just the full browser. So this is really nice. And I can send this to anybody, I think. Let me test in an incognito window. Yeah, so you can send this to your friends. You can, anybody can look at this. And it should work. Yeah, everything works here. So in some ways, obviously this is a much more fully featured editor. And so in some ways it's easier to use. So I'll be going over some more stuff next week, but just wanted to update and put this on here. Unfortunately, the P5 editor wasn't working super well, so I apologize for those technical difficulties, but I think we'll be good to go forward with our Code Sandbox. So I'll put a link to all of this stuff in, I'll put a Blackboard announcement, and yeah, I'll put a link to this stuff. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to go over stuff in office hours, or make a meeting at any time. Just let me know. All right.